Welcome to Mentoring Moments. Mentoring Moments is a sub-series of the E-commerce Edge podcast. It is composed of clips taken from Jason's one-to-one and group mentorship sessions. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Edge podcast with me, your host, Jason Greenwood. And I have another outstanding guest to introduce to you today. I have Brynn Snyder from Slate Electric Flosser. Welcome, Brynn.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on the Commerce Edge.
Listen, I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you today. And you are from the great state of Washington, correct?
Yes, I hail from Canada, but
Wow.
I married an American, and Spokane is where we live now.
Love it. And you come from, before we get into Slate and what it is and what it does and how it came to be, you have a background, you're at least as far as I can tell, you're very creative in your background. So you've been a graphic designer, you've been a creator, but then you've also helped to run the family dental practice as well, which I'm guessing leads into the story of Slate and how it came to be. But how did you decide to make this, what I consider a pretty hard pivot from the creative side of your life to, hey, I see a gap. I'm working in and managing our family dental practice, and now I want to get into making and designing a physical product. Like it's a very different thing, right? To go from designing, being a digital designer and creating something that's creative and maybe designed for a 2D screen to all of a sudden designing a physical product within kind of, you got to have this practical industrial design kind of mind. And what made you want to make that leap?
Actually, I'm going to give you a quick story on my history. When I was 15, I started a company where I lived, and my mom helped me run that business. So I learned how to run a business from her. And then I went to college. I actually went to college for industrial design.
Wow. Okay. So it's maybe not that big of a leap.
So what happened though is when I graduated, I followed my husband to dental school, and it was 2009. It was bad time to get hired as an industrial designer. Everyone had cut their industrial design teams. So I started doing a lot more graphic designs. Out of college, I actually was a graphic designer, and that's why you didn't know that. And so I did graphic design and wedding invitations while my husband went to dental school. And then he got done dental school, and I was like, I'm not going to work, finally. Well, that didn't last very long. And he bought his dental practice in Spokane, Washington. And I wasn't going to work at it, but his front office manager got placenta previa and had to go to the hospital like that day. And she was out for 6 months. And so I became the office manager, and then she didn't end up coming back. So then I stayed being the office manager. And when I learned about oral health, it like blew my mind. I was like, how am I 33 and I didn't know that there's a proper way to floss. I didn't know that pH existed. And I didn't even know, like, when a dentist would say, okay, they have a MOD, what does that mean? So I learned all of these things. I learned all about insurance. And I said to my husband, if people understood more about dentistry, they would floss.
Yes.
So how about, well, he wanted to invent the flosser. I didn't at first because I had 5 kids and we had just done all this stuff. But he was like, I want to invent this product that will change flossing. And I was like, sure, think about it, do it on your free time. But then he really brought it to fruition, and I took over in 2021, and we had product to buy in November of 2022.
Wow. That's crazy. That's a very short NPD life cycle.
So he had started working on it in 2019, but I didn't touch it until 2021.
And did you bring your industrial design background and skill set into the business at that point, or was it a fully fledged idea by then?
It was a fully fledged idea. So my husband watched me. We were friends when I was in college. So he watched me do industrial design, and he was like, if I wasn't going to be a dentist, this is the major I would have done. And so he was really into inventing, and like when he was designing it, I would sometimes give feedback, but I couldn't have designed the product he designed. Our product has a special thing that we patented on it, these floss heads. So if someone's watching, they can see me show it on the screen. But if not, they're little triangles that are attached to floss that go into where your teeth and gums touch. And that's the part of our mouth that everything misses. Our toothbrush misses it. If you're using a floss pick, it misses it. The only time it hits that is if you use the C shape when you're using string floss. So my husband was like, I have to make this easier. And when he was designing those things, like I would be able to say, okay, I would do this differently. But he overall was the brains behind this.
Wow. And I guess because he had the dental school background and he had the dental treatment background, then he saw every single day this need for this product in the world. And he must have been asking himself, why has no one else come up with this by now? And if no one else is going to, then I'm bloody well going to do it.
He thought there has to be one. It has to exist. So we actually did a lot of research, and we learned that there was an electric flosser that existed in the 2000s that was really little, called the Hummingbird. And then there was also one that came out in like 1990. And so we looked at those, and I said, why didn't they succeed? And that's when we were like, okay, this is what we would change, what we'd make better about our product. And that's where the gum sweeps came.
Wow. And so once you came on board, I'm guessing, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, you took over management of that side of the business. You took over sales, marketing, branding, basically everything to do with go-to-market became your baby.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't realize how much I did by myself till now. I have a bigger team, and I was like, I did a whole business. I went to the Philippines. I went to our factory. I figured out how to import, how to do everything all by myself, and I did it for a year.
Wow. And what, like, you must have believed in it. Obviously, it went beyond just the fact that your husband designed this great physical product based on his experience and his education. But you must have genuinely believed there was a pretty significant market opportunity for this product. And you must have had a lot of pretty high level of confidence in yourself that you could turn this into a profitable business. Because if you're taking away time from your 5 kids and you're taking away time from helping to run the dental practice and you're putting all this time and energy into this new business venture, you must have believed in your heart of hearts, there's a significant opportunity here. We just have to figure out the best way to exploit that opportunity.
Yeah. So I said to him, like, this is going to take the next 5 to 10 years of our lives. I do think that if this is done well, it can be $100 million or more company. The water flosser is 1.2 billion industry. So I feel like we could be $1 billion industry. But I said, I'm not doing this unless hygienists back us. Because we've seen other dental products that came out that dentists and hygienists say that's a gimmick. And I wanted a hygienist to say, this is the product I recommend for your gums. So before we did our Kickstarter, we actually sent our product to 500 hygienists. And I said, if they like it and they will back it, then I will do this road. But I'm not going to spend so much time and energy unless the dental community can back us. So and 95% of them said they'd recommend it to their patients. So I said, okay, let's do this.
And did you always have a vision that you were gonna be, first of all, that you were gonna be an omni-channel business? And did you always have a vision that strategic wholesale would always be a significant part of the business? Of course, you got D2C, you're selling to end consumers to use at home, this flosser, but did you always have the vision that, hey, no, we also want this to be sold by professionals to their customers and used within these offices, these dental offices, that we want this to almost be like a hair salon, in the sense that, okay, cool, I go and I get my hair cut, I get my hair treated, but then before I leave, I'm loaded up with the right product for my hair and all the color safe shampoos and all the things I need. Was it always your vision that you said, hey, we want dental professionals to not only be able to use this in their practice, but be able to actually sell them at point of sale along with their services, to be able to say, hey, I've got this right here, right now. You need this in your life. Do you want to buy it? Was that always the vision, or was it always the vision to be a pure play D2C brand?
So we have a few different strategies, and we had decided, okay, we're going to deploy these at different times. So our first thing is, we knew that you only go to the dentist every 6 months, and usually you have to hear about a product multiple times before you buy it. We were like, our first goal is to be D2C, because people can see it. They can see an ad 7 times in a month where they're only going to go to the dentist. That would take a few years. So we started going to dental trade shows right away. So dentists would know we existed and dentists would try it, because dentists are actually really hard to convince that they should have it at their office. But then we also knew there's 2 kinds of dentists. There's the dentists who like to make profit. So they will buy product and they'll sell it. And then there's the other dentists who are like, you can get your Sonicare at Costco. Just go to Costco and get it. Right. So we wanted to have an online presence. So the one dentist who doesn't want to carry stock would just say, you need this product, it's at Amazon, or you need this product, go to their website. Our goal is in 10 years to be in every single dental office, because that's what people want. Until then, our goal is D2C, Amazon, other online retailers, and then continue to build our dental. We do wholesale. So like here in Spokane, there are dental offices that carry our product, and we have some in California and some in Texas, but that takes a lot more effort than D2C. And then hopefully by 2027, we will have enough awareness that we can be in mass, like Costco and Target and Sam's Club and Walmart and Sephora. I really want to be in Sephora.
Man, that seems to be such a particularly female thing. I want to see my brand in Sephora. Like, I want to physically see it there in that space. And
I take Ulta too. I do Ulta too.
I like that. I like that ambition, and I like the focus on that. Now, because there's so many things to talk about here, and I really appreciate your time as a guest mentor, because these are the kind of the behind the scenes stories that don't often get told, right? They're the kind of stories about building a business from scratch, designing a good from scratch, going through the trials and tribulations of getting it contract manufactured, and then deciding, okay, are we going to have wholesale distribution, or are we going to be retail only? And if we're retail only, will we work only with retail partners, or will we be D2C and retail? Or are we going to be D2C only?
Yeah,
and so these are some of these are the channel mix decisions, particularly as a business starts to scale. And I see very much D2C as a seeding the brand opportunity.
Yes.
Like, it's to seed the brand into the market, and you pretty rapidly, and a lot of businesses feel like they make this mistake, the mistake that you sound like you will never make, which is that they treat D2C as a business model rather than just a channel. And it's just a channel. And so oftentimes, in order to de-risk a D2C, we've seen major D2C darlings either go out of business or get very close to it very recently here. We see Nike reopening relationships with wholesale partners and retail partners because their D2C play was not good. It was not as strong as they expected it to be. We see Allbirds has just about gone out of business because they shunned strategic wholesale for their entire life, until now their IPO, they're down like 98% plus of their share price since IPO. They've nearly gone out of business. They're throwing a Hail Mary pass to wholesale distribution to try to rebuild their business, because they found that D2C on its own was just so expensive.
You have to know too, what is your product? What's the best way for someone to experience it? As a mom, if I was at the dentist office, I would just want to order it and have it delivered to my house. But if I'm buying shoes, I want my daughter to be able to try on the shoes to make sure they fit her feet. And so does Nike want me buying the 6, 6.5, and 7 and then shipping back the other sizes? Probably not. So I think that's what we're trying to really figure out. And what I'm trying to make sure I do is realize I'm not always the customer. And so what I would do is not necessarily what my consumer would do. So I need to be aware of that. I just want everything shipped to my house because I'm a full-time working mom and I have 5 kids. But that's not what everyone wants.
And I think that whole mantra, you're living the mantra, be everywhere your customers are and could be. But obviously you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And so what you're doing is you're being very strategic in the way that you're adding channels. Once you dominate and master one channel, then you have a roadmap to adding more channels once you feel like you're at a place where it makes sense as a business to do, and you feel like you've got the resources to be able to nail those channels.
Yes. So this year we're strategizing a lot about retail, because I have some friends and people I've seen that retail actually killed them because they went in too soon. If people are not buying your product on the shelf, you will fail because they will take you off or they'll put you in less stores. Or so like your brand has to be big enough. I was actually talking to a VC the other day, and he said he doesn't recommend to go into retail till you're at 100 million. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
I don't know if I agree with that, but that was like his thought. And I was thinking like 20 million.
Wow.
But I'm going to learn
Okay.
and see what's best. But so we created this roadmap of, okay, what would it be like to be in grocery? What would it be like to be in mass? And when I say mass, I mean Costco, Target.
Big box retail.
Big box retail is one, and then mass is Costco and Sam's Club. And so,
Yes.
But to do Costco would cost us 3.6 million just in inventory. So like knowing that, okay, that's not obtainable right now unless I get inventory financing. So it's good to have the thought of this is where I want to be in a year or 2 years. How do I get there? And what do I need to do? So we're trying to do that at Slate. We'll see if it works.
And you're fully bootstrapped, or have you taken on investment?
We did raise. So right when in June of 2022, I realized the POs are about a $500,000 purchase for us, and that really affects cash flow. We raised $800,000 in June of 2022 with 8 different investors asking for a minimum investment of $50,000.
So would you consider that more of a friends and family round or a true seed round?
No, that was like an angel seed
Okay, that was
round.
like an angel round.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like it.
We did do a family and friends and family at the very beginning. We did $300,000 with friends and family. So we were really lucky to be able to do that because that's what paid for our molds at the beginning for us to test with hygienists. It's just
how hard was it to
so
get
much money.
belief going? Yeah, of course. Obviously, you've raised 1.1 now, as far as I can tell. If just quick math, you've raised about 1.1, and then maybe a follow-on round. I don't know, a bridge round. But how hard was it to sell your idea to friends and family and investors, and to get them excited about the potential of this business? How hard was that, or did you find that bit the easy bit?
So Dr. Snyder, Danny, my husband, did the friends and family round because this is your dream, like you do it. And then I took it over in 2021 and I raised the 800,000. At first it felt impossible, but I started in April trying to raise and I closed the 800,000 in June, which is pretty fast actually.
Wow, that is super fast. And how did you, presumably this is the first time you've ever gone to market to try to raise money. Did you read like the book Angel, or did you just watch a lot of YouTube videos, or how did you, because presumably you don't have a background in finance. So how did you figure this out, and how did you have the confidence to be able to go to market with this?
So I'm very passionate about flossing, and I'm very passionate about the health effects. I really believe our product can change people's health, like so passionate about it. So I think that's one thing that helps. And then 2, I do have awesome family members who are more in the finance space. So my sister has an econ major background, finance. And then my brother also I have 2 brothers that have MBAs. So I did access them in like, where would you go? But then I watched a lot of YouTube. I'm like trying to remember what it's called. It's in San Francisco, or it's in California. They do startup like incubators.
Not Techstars, but yeah, the incubators. Yeah, basically, it's just slipped my mind.
No, Y Combinator. Okay, sorry, yes. So I watched the Y Combinators, and then I created a pitch, and then I showed it to people. I created the deck. I followed all the rules that Y Combinator said, and then I presented it to people. And I feel like the reason the people at the beginning didn't probably get on board was I wasn't very good at it yet. I went and I probably practiced my pitch for 100 hours. I wanted to never have to look at my slides. I wanted to be able to just communicate. And so once I did that, I would go on walks with my daughter and I would tell her, and she was like, "Mom, I know the pitch now. Can you stop doing it?"
I love that.
And then
I was using her as your pitch practice.
I think it's really getting your first investor really helps other people get on board. And luckily I had 2 people who were ready to invest from my family round. I was like, I have 2 people that are willing to do this sum. So people were more excited to try to. The funniest one, though, is I presented to this guy in California who I had a connection to, but I didn't personally know. And I presented it and I said, when can I follow up with you? And he was like, I'll contact you. And I was like, how about I send you my product just so you can try it? And he was like, okay. So I really feel like it would have been very hard if I didn't have the product on hand to raise the money.
It was just an idea, and
Yeah.
there was no molds, there was no production partner, there was no nothing.
So because I had the actual product, I shipped it to him. And 3 days later, he was like, I actually bought these other things online to see how they compared. Your product is amazing. I want to invest $100,000. So I was like, okay, my first bigger check, because my other ones were 50. And then I was lucky. There's a community. I live in Spokane, Washington, and they have an Angel Alliance group. And I messaged the person, said, hey, can I present? But I had missed the presentation window. But he let me come and do one just at his office. And I feel really supported by my community. So it's pretty cool. They invested in me too.
And at this same time, because you've gotten to 7 figures in 2 years, which is just phenomenal as a pure play D2C brand. And obviously you've got visions for much bigger things. At the same time, were you in parallel building in public? Were you in parallel building social channels? And what were you doing to build the brand in parallel with trying to secure funding and continue to produce more product and get it out there into more channels? What were you doing in parallel to minimize your costs on digital marketing, customer acquisition, all those things? Like, how were you keeping those costs down?
Yeah. So like when we started, our ad buyer was $350 a month. And he was so cheap. He was great. I recommend him to people that are local. But every time we get a little bigger, we get someone who knows a little bit more expertise. Our first ad buyer was $350, and then it went to $1,000, and then the next person was $3,000, and now our current person is a percentage of our ad spend. So as you grow, I feel like if I would have started with the bigger person, I couldn't have grown. So I think it's like good to realize you're going to start somewhere, and then you're going to, as you grow, you might outgrow certain people. And that's why I think contractors are really beneficial. So I had a big contracting team before I got my first employee, but I also saw, what am I good at and what am I bad at? I am not good at customer service. And so that was like one of the first hires. Lucked out and got introduced to a girl named Christy, and she had done customer service before for a startup, and she's good at startup. And so it was just great. She's a contractor, but she was a great first contractor to really have.
Wow. And have you started to work with influencers? Because it seems like everything to do with the mouth is dominated by influencers, from High Smile to bloody every other thing you can think of. It seems like Instagram, every third Instagram ad I see is for something to do with the mouth and some influencer touting a product. So did you feel like you almost had to work with influencers at some point to get your product in front of a wider social audience?
Yeah, so we have been really trying to get the dental community to know about us through social, and this could be just how we found it because we were part of the dental community already. But when I tried working with just a random influencer who was like lifestyle or something, they wouldn't get very good ROI. But when I would have a dentist share about our product, we'd get better ROI. And so I really spent the last 2 years really developing relationships with a lot of the dental influencers. And it's good. There's some of them who don't love my product. There's some of them who absolutely love it. But when they tell me why they don't love it, then that's great because that helps me create a better 2.0 version. So our original product wasn't rechargeable and had a button on the bottom. And after talking to all these people, I learned, okay, they want it rechargeable and they want a button on the front. Our next model had all those things. And I would never have learned that if I wouldn't have been interacting with them.
Wow.
But influencers are very expensive if you don't do it the right way. What I've learned is if someone loves your product, they usually will share it for either free or for a reasonable amount. When people ask you to pay them like $5,000, you're going to have no ROI because they don't care about your product. So if the mistakes I I hope no one else makes I did a few trying, oh, this person has like 1 million followers, I'm going to try doing them. It didn't work and it was a waste of money. So what I've learned personally is dental people work and micro, small people who have less than 50,000 followers.
Wow. And do you open relationships with influencers by sliding into their DMs and saying, hey, give me your address, I'll send you the product, and I'd love to get your feedback, and then see if we can form a partnership if you like the product? Or do you just simply say, hey, do you work with people like us? Do you have a rate card? What's your typical partnership model? How do you open a dialogue with these people that you know are likely to be a good fit for your product and your brand? How do you start a conversation like that if they don't know who you are?
So there's a few different ways that I've done it. One was become a friend with them first. So comment on all their stuff, really care about it. There are people who I feel like I'm their friend. There's the Peaceful Tooth Doc. Like, she's a dentist in Kentucky. I know so much about her. I literally feel like she's my friend. I'm sure she doesn't consider me a friend, but if you feel that way about people, then they might message you back. The problem is, now that I do this enough, you can message someone and they never see it, because there's 3 different categories. And if they comment back to you, then that's good. That means they saw you're in their feed. So commenting. The second thing is that I did with a lot of dental professionals is I said, hey, this is our story. I would love for you to try it. No strings attached, but I would love for you to give me feedback. And that's how I did it for almost the full first year. It's really hard though, because that's a lot of money that I gave away in product. And so you have to be willing to do that. But most people that reviewed it loved it, and then they would talk about it on their stories. So it was like a win. And then once I had more funds, I would say, I want to be respectful of them. This is also their job. So I would be like, hey, you're a great creator. I'd love to see your rate card. And if I can't afford it, would it be okay if I negotiate with you?
That's cool. I like the way that you say that. I'd love to see your rate card, but if I can't afford you, are you open to some form of negotiation or a different model or a rev share, or basically open to a dialogue, despite the fact that I may not be able to afford what's directly on your rate card? That's a really respectful way to say that, as opposed to say, can you do it for cheaper? It's, are you open to negotiation, and what that might look like? I think that's a very respectful way to say that to someone.
And then something that is like mandatory for me is I don't want anyone talking about my product that doesn't love it. So I say to them, if you try it and you don't love it, you don't need to talk about it. I want the people who are talking about Slate to genuinely be like, this is the best flosser you could use.
Wow. Electric or otherwise.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And what is next for you guys, like in the immediate, say, next 6, 12, 18 months? Is there a V3 coming out? You've been doing this for over 3 years now. What is on your radar in terms of immediate new channels that you're looking to exploit, or product development stuff? Is there, like I said, is there a V3 coming?
Yeah. So I think that's something, most companies have many SKUs. And so it's hard. We only have really 2 SKUs. We have the flosser and then the floss heads. We actually have like 3, because we also have the braces floss heads, which are amazing. They work underneath the braces wire. That's like a game changer. But then it makes it hard to like gift or do a giveaway or different things. So we are working on some products so that we have a deeper product line, so that we're excited, but I can't tell you what it is.
Okay.
But I do think that everyone needs to realize, like, innovation is needed in a company. And so once you get one product off the ground, you do not want to make it so you don't have funds, because developing a new product costs money. So you want to be strategic about spending money, but you need more products eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see you guys run Shopify. How did you, as almost every single D2C startup in the world seems to do, how did you decide on Shopify? Did you do it with a partner? Did you do it yourself? Did you just set it up and buy an off-the-shelf theme to get you off the ground and up and running? Like, how did you decide on platform, and how did you get that part up and running? Is it integrated in with an ERP on the back end or some form of WMS? Do you work with a 3PL? Do you ship yourself? Like, from an operational perspective, this is the stuff that I get involved in typically with brands is all of the technical and operational side of the business, not necessarily the marketing side of the business. So tell me a little bit operationally how you got up and running so that you could actually get products into customers' hands that wanted to buy them.
Yeah, so we did Shopify. Because I did graphic design for a while, I knew how to make different websites, and I had done websites on Squarespace and Wix, and WordPress. But what I realized is if I'm selling a product, I want to be on Shopify. So I do recommend Shopify for buying for products just because there's so many different apps you can use. I remember at first when I started, I only had 3 apps, and now I have 25.
Yeah.
So, but I do think apps are very expensive and they can add up really fast. So you want to be strategic on doing them when you need them. We do all the fulfillment in-house. We were originally going to outsource to a 3PL, but I'm really community focused, and I realized that I could employ people in my city. And so I applied for a grant actually in our city to be able to hire people in our city. So we employ refugees to do our fulfillment.
Wow, that's impressive. Very cool. And so you've got your own little local small warehouse that you operate out of and do fulfillment from.
Yeah, so the bottom floor is our warehouse, and then the basement is storage, and then the top floor is our office.
Dental office.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. That's great. Yeah, my first pure play e-commerce business, we had the same thing. We had an office, and it had a warehouse attached to it, a small warehouse attached to it, and we did all of our own fulfillment as well. Now, obviously, at some point in your growth story, I'm guessing you'll either have to outsource to a 3PL or at least do dual fulfillment. Maybe you have a 3PL instead. You're on the West Coast. Maybe you'll have a 3PL on the East Coast, so that, or maybe Midwest fulfillment center or something like that. As you continue to scale, you may have to revisit how you do your operations.
Yeah. So our goal is to probably have a bigger place for retail. So we don't touch any of the packages that go to retail, but that anything that's through our Shopify that we can fulfill ourselves. So getting a bigger warehouse space. Maybe I'll change my mind, but I really do want to provide jobs for people in our city.
I love that. I love that mission. And in terms of back office, do you use QuickBooks in the back office integrated with Shopify, or do you use a full-blown ERP like NetSuite? Or
yeah, no, we cannot afford an ERP yet. Yes. We use Xero. We're actually going to switch to QuickBooks. But I use Xero because that's what my accountant was using. But I just think that if I could go back in time, I would have just done QuickBooks Online. I think it's a great solution for you until you can afford a NetSuite. That's $20,000. You have to have a reason to afford that. And right now I have way better places to put that money.
Totally. And I'm guessing you're not using a WMS yet. You're using maybe just a carrier aggregator integration or something like that, where it manages your pick, pack, dispatch,
so I have to tell you guys about this product I use that I love. So it's called Redo. It does our package protection. And then if someone needs to return something, it does that. But they also just started doing a fulfillment side. They have great packaging prices and it's integrated. So in a year from now, we may use something else, but right now we're using Redo and we really like it.
And it integrates with your carrier to where the consignments are automatically lodged with the carrier.
Yeah, so it does FedEx, United States Postal Service. I'm excited about that.
Great. And it prints your labels for you and everything else and pulls down the orders from Shopify.
And we actually use the Rollo printer and I really like it. We tried using other ones that were apparently nicer, but Rollo actually works great for us.
Zebra printers seem to be the norm in the industry.
Yeah, so
that's what we used to use in our business.
But I think the Rollos are working great for us now.
Love it. And do you think that you guys will need to get to the next level from here on out? Do you think you'll want to take on more funding if you decided to get into strategic wholesale or some sort of bridging finance for very large POs or something like that for a Costco type of or is it your intention to try to do everything and cash flow everything from here on out?
Yeah. So my heart doesn't want to lose the company because I overspend. And so I want to try to we've been profitable the whole time. So I've been trying to be profitable, but so my gut would be to if I had a strategic, so they were bringing something else to the table other than money, I would do an equity raise. No problem. But they have to be benefiting me somehow, because otherwise I'm just going to get a inventory financing. So I've been looking at different ways to do inventory financing. So, okay, I have a PO from Costco. It's $3 million. Let's do it that way. Money is something I'm always thinking about, always trying to figure out. So we have a loan. I'm also looking into getting a line of credit. So as soon as you can get a line of credit, secure that.
Yes.
So that's our goal.
Wow, exciting. And do you have specific financial growth goals over the next couple of years, or do you just go, hey, look, we're not necessarily setting targets of dollars, but we're setting a target based on units sold or channels we sell through? Or like, how do you set the metrics or the targets in your business to say, hey, this is how I know we're growing, this is how I know we're improving, this is how I keep the finger on the pulse of our business to know we're on a trajectory that I want us to be on?
So my second hire was a fractional CFO, because you can't ever achieve goals that you don't have. And so
Correct.
we definitely have numbers that we try to hit. Like last year, our goal was to do 3.5 million, and we exceeded that goal. So that was really fun. And then our goal this year is it's hard. We've set 2 goals. So originally at the beginning of the year, we were like, let's do 8 million this year. And how do we achieve that? But then I read the books, 10x is better than 2x. And I was like, what's stopping us from hitting 12 million? Let's figure that out. And if we shoot for 12, we're for sure going to get 8.
Yes. My mother had a famous saying when I was growing up: if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. I totally understand the need for goal setting. And how big is your team now? And what do you think, if you were to look forward, say, the next 12 months, what are some of the strategic hires you think you're going to need to make to help you get to that next level?
Okay, so this is a big question we've been asking. So right now it's me, I'm the CEO, and I run the design section and ops. I'm like the head of ops. And then I have a marketing and brand strategist, but I love the marketing side. It's like what I'm really passionate about. So I try to be part of that as much as possible. I just hired a fractional salesperson who is helping us with our retail plan. And then we have Maddie on our team. She just helps. I hired her as an assistant, but she does so much more than that. We call her like the person who gets everything done that we need to get done. She's awesome. And then we have our 2 fulfillment workers right now, as we expect to hire at least 2 more fulfillment workers this year. And then we are trying to figure out if we want to hire a fractional ops person or someone who can do more than that and join our team full time. It's just, I've been interviewing different people, trying to figure out, what do we want? Who do we need in this spot? Because I think the hard part about a startup is you need someone who can do like 4 different jobs. But there aren't very many people who do that. And I think ops will be our next, because it's running okay, but it's requiring a lot of me managing it. And I would like to work a little bit less than I do.
No e-commerce manager.
What we're over right now. So I would say our marketing strategist is over e-commerce, and we have an Amazon team, and then we have a Meta Google team. So I guess our Amazon person manages that part, and our Meta Google, I feel like, is what we manage our D2C with.
And as you start to take on larger and larger wholesale customers, are you planning to offer B2B e-commerce at some stage? Are you going to do EDI, punch out, e-procurement for the wholesale side of the business? Because especially for some of those larger institutional scale buyers, they're not going to come to your website and buy. They're going to usually want you to integrate via EDI or e-procurement,
right?
Because they generate POs in their system and they want that to automatically come into your system for fulfillment. So if you started to think about because if you go after the big fish, it's not just having the money to go after the big fish, but it's also having the systems and processes to get the big fish too.
Yeah. So I've been through the whole Walmart thing, and I had so many things I had to fill out, and I had to figure all those different things out. And I was like, wow, there is a lot. So we actually are planning on working with brokers that do those. And then the fulfillment side would be organized with our fulfillment ops team. But
Cool.
we are a little bit hesitant to go online for Costco, Target, and Walmart because we feel if we're trying to do those, we'd rather be in the store. And if they don't do well on the online, then they wouldn't bring us in store. And so we'd rather grow bigger D2C and on Amazon and be able to really know who our customer is, be able to acquire their email addresses, understand them, so that when we are going into stores, we can really knock it out of the park.
And if someone was in your shoes right now, but at the beginning of their journey, their beginning of their D2C journey and the beginning of their product development journey, what would be like 1, 2, 3 top pieces of advice that you would give to them to say, hey, look, if you want to be successful in this game, here's what's going to catch you out that you need to keep an eye on?
I think because my background is in product design, the most important thing is, do people want your product? Do people need your product? If they don't need it or want it, you're not going to sell it. Don't ask your friends or family, because they are either going to tell you not to do it or they're going to tell you to do it because they don't want to hurt your feelings. You need to ask people who don't know you. So that's my number one. Make sure your product is awesome. Because I feel like that's why I'm so passionate, is I know my product will help your oral health. 2, entrepreneurship is really lonely. So if you can have a team member, a teammate, that will really help you. I was really feeling lonely at the beginning, and I reached out to a group called Female Founders Only, and I was able to go on a trip with them, and I felt so buoyed up by it. And then it was able to help me network and have people to ask questions. I think people want to help other people. So if you ask, they usually will help you, or they know someone else who can help you. So I feel like I ask a lot of people, this is something I'm struggling with. Do you know anyone who could help me? And I usually get awesome help. So I guess try not to be lonely, get a good team or mentors. And then the third thing is, cash flow is going to be the hardest part about building your business. So you need to figure out the cash flow part, either with a loan or with equity or line of credit. But if you don't have money, you can't succeed, which is really hard.
When I had my e-commerce pure play, I was very lucky in that my business partner was reasonably wealthy, and so he financed, and we didn't take any money out of the business for the first couple of years. We just literally every dollar that came out of the business went straight back into the business. And we gave ourselves our own runway of cash. We saved up enough money to where we didn't need to take any money out of the business for the first couple of years, because literally every single month we were doubling the volumes we were selling. And so therefore we needed all of the profitability to buy more stuff, to be able to sell more stuff. And man, that you just feel, especially in that first year or two, especially if your brand's doing well, you feel like a dog chasing your tail. You're like, okay, I just sold out of everything I had. I need to buy that amount again, plus another 50%. Otherwise, I'm just going to run out of stock and I don't have anything to sell. And it just feels like you are constantly needing more. They're like cash eating machines.
Yes,
in the first year or two.
I feel like if we hit our goals in 8 months, I'll be able to be like, this cycle is finally working. But that's 2.5 years of not getting paid. I pay myself just enough to pay for my nanny and my cleaning lady. And so and I didn't pay myself at all for the first year. If you don't have money saved up, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And not everyone has a rich dad or a rich uncle that can help them, or their founder partner that happens to have extra cash
to be able to float the company while it goes through this insane growth curve, this hockey stick growth curve. And man, it just chews up cash faster than you can possibly imagine. And there's always expenses coming out of the woodwork that you just can't, it's very difficult to predict and expect.
And sometimes you're going to make stupid choices and you're going to lose $20,000 because you just did something wrong.
It's the price of entry for entrepreneurship, isn't it? Listen, this has been absolutely fascinating, and you've been one of the most interesting people we have had as a guest mentor. I really appreciate the honesty, the transparency, the openness. You've got a very cool business on your hands. I think physical products is just one of those things that is so hard to get right, and it is so hard to get if you unless you're just white labeling somebody else's thing. That's easy. If you're trying to create something literally new and innovative in the world, it's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to get the word out about that new thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're creating a brand new category of product, and category creation is hard. Category marketing is hard. But it's pick your heart. As long as you're doing something that you love, and as long as it's a product that you love, because if you don't love the product, you're probably not going to have the stamina to
Yes,
stay
you will
with.
burn out.
You will burn out. You will burn out. Right?
Yeah, there's been times when I was like, okay, this is really hard. But then I was like, okay, if I hire this person, then it'll take that off my plate and I can keep going. But if I was not this passionate, it probably would have just stopped.
Yeah, I can see that and I can feel that. I can sense it through the screen. It's palpable. Listen, this has been super interesting. If people want to reach out to you, I'll put a link to your website in the show notes. I'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. Other than that, if you have other female founders that maybe want to learn from you or have a conversation with you or get linked up into some of the communities that you're involved in, what's the best way for somebody to reach out and have a chat with you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Brynn Mac Snyder, but I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need one. And
Yes.
then our Slate Flosser is our Instagram. I love the female founders group. So it's called Female Founders Only. There's also a female founder collective if you're on the East Coast. I think there's groups so you can find them, but I used to have a lot more time. I'm not as available anymore. But if you email me or message me on LinkedIn, I will get back to you and I will tell you if I can help you or where you could get help from.
I love it. Absolutely amazing. Now, as we do, it's an hour has absolutely flown by, so I do appreciate your time. Now, this is the point where I get to flip the script. I get to turn the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. So, Brynn Snyder from Slate Electric Flosser, what is your question for me today?
Okay, so you said you're really into ops and fulfillment. What do you feel like is the most important software that you use?
It really, so I don't run an e-commerce brand anymore. We sold our e-commerce brand, but I do consult to a lot of businesses around fulfillment, logistics, supply chain, OMS, IMS, WMS, the whole stack. And I think it really does depend a little bit on the product you're selling, how big it is, how much weight it is. There's a lot that goes into this, whether you need to use bulk carriers or whether you can use standard carriers, whether you're B2C, D2C, B2B, or all three. I think there are different things. When you first start out, you don't need a heavy duty WMS, a warehouse management system that can do like chaotic put away and manages everything down to the bin location and does automatic pick routing and pick to light and all that stuff. That stuff's all great. And if you're doing 10,000 orders a month, then absolutely you're going to need a WMS. But in the beginning, a manually organized warehouse where you know where everything is, especially if you're a single SKU or a sub 10 SKU brand, if you got 100,000 SKUs or 5 million SKUs like wholesale distribution, you need totally different software to be able to handle that. And you need a totally different warehouse layout and physical space, and you need carousels that get stuff from the back of the warehouse to the front of the warehouse to your to your packing stations. And you at every stage of growth, you need something slightly different. But I think at the stage of growth where you're at, so long as you have a carrier aggregation platform that can help you with the pick, pack, dispatch piece, doesn't necessarily have to work with fully manage and automate the warehouse, but at least if you can get integrated in with the carriers and the label printing to where that's automated and the consignment lodgement is automated instead of having to manually go into a carrier's website and lodge the consignment, I think if you can do that, then that is going to carry you through. That can carry you through into a significant stage of growth. But it's a typical consultant answer. It depends. But I think you're doing exactly what's right for a very small SKU count business that's not doing 100,000 orders a month or 10,000 orders a month, right? You are at the right stage of growth to where you can manage and run your own warehouse. It's easy to do the picking because you've only got a few SKUs. It's not like they got to walk up and down 5 aisles to pick 5 different types of items to put into a carton and ship it out. And so it feels like you're making the right investments at the right time for your stage of growth. Now, again, if you get into strategic wholesale and you decide to do your own fulfillment for strategic wholesale, then you're probably going to have to start working with 3PLs. Or in your case, you're going to work with a broker dealer that's going to basically, but you're still going to have to supply the broker dealer. And so
Right.
whether that comes directly from your warehouse to them and then them to the strategics, or whether that comes direct from your contract manufacturer to your broker and then they ship it out, but then they're probably working with a 3PL. So there's lots to consider in that. And then obviously FBA is its whole thing, and you need to make sure that Amazon doesn't want you to ever run out of product. They definitely don't want you to ever not to be able
FBA,
to fulfill.
so we experience that.
Yeah, it does depend on what stage of growth you are at, but it feels like you're on a very good, very reasonable, very structured trajectory to start adding technology only when it makes sense to do, when you're not overspending upfront because you're not at that scale yet.
Right.
And I think that's a very smart decision-making process that you're going through.
Well, thank you
well
so
done.
much.
No worries. Listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your time. I thank you for sharing all of your hard-won wisdom with my audience, and I can't wait to speak to you again soon.
Thanks. Have a great day. I really am appreciative that you had me on.
If you'd like to get mentored by Jason for free, head over to greenwoodconsulting.net, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click Get Mentored by Jason.